Hey guys, today I'm going to be talking a little bit about Dennis Prager and a fairly recent argument that he had on the Piers Morgan show. And I just wanted to start it out with this because I just found this so funny. I don't know, it's so dark. So there's this YouTube channel. I was trying to look up basically what Dennis Prager thought about what was going on. I was talking to somebody about what was going on in Israel, and out of curiosity, because I don't listen to these guys all that often. I said, what is Dennis Prager claiming at this point about the war in Israel and Gaza? What's going on? And the guy I was talking to didn't even know. And you got to understand that this is somebody who like me was sort of inculcated with this stuff from a very young age. So it was so neither one of us are listening at this point. I know my parents aren't either. They can't listen to him either anymore. So I go to look it up and I find this video, and it's a channel called the Israel Guys, and it's got like 155,000 subs, and this was just something that YouTube threw at me, and I clicked on it out of sheer curiosity because it's like, what is the propaganda from Israel looking like? And it's actually not. I don't think it's Israelis. I think they're Christians who are like those kinds. I think they're probably those Christians who want Israel to be full of Jews so that Jesus can come back to Earth. As crazy as that sounds, but okay. So this is a video that they did like a week ago when the IDF sent an airstrike to kill 7 aid workers who were in those, white aid caravans, those the like Land Rovers, and are clearly marked as aid vehicles, and something that in the region you would know that if you see that is some kind of international aid group that's just in a caravan for safety, and they're taking supplies to people. And this is how this video starts. And it's so fast. It got me. Listen to how this guy, mind you, is talking about 7 innocent people who were murdered in Israel on the basis that like somebody somewhere may have or may not, I don't know, who knows, you don't know, I don't know, may have thought that this caravan was secretly carrying a Hamas leader.
Something wild happened in Gaza this week.
That's it. That's all I wanted to show you guys. Are you kidding me? Are you serious? Are we living in the real world right now? Like what? What do you do? What? Something wild happened? Yeah, I'd say so, man. Oh, was it wild? I like, to begin with, it's very obvious that our language has completely been dumbed down by TikTok and social media. That doesn't need to be stressed at this point. We all know what's going on, but like, that's how you start. How do you, from behind the camera, how do you not go, cut, hey, Kyle, you know what? Let's be as apologetic as possible here. Uh, let's not call it wild. That's what people say when they're talking about like a fight outside of a club, or they're trying to hype up some corpo poison or something. Let's do another take of that, okay? Let's just real quick. You know what? Let's workshop some ideas. How do we get the right tone for this? No. Something wild happened, you guys. Yo, something. Oh, what? Sheesh! Holy shit. Okay, sorry. I'm all right. Well, let's go to the debate. Okay, so this is the debate, and I couldn't even remember the guy's name. It's between Dennis Prager and Reza Aslan, I think is how you say his name, or Aslan or something. He wrote a book a while back and became kind of popular. I can't remember what the book is called, but it basically was attempting to debunk the idea of Jesus as Christ. It was this idea that Jesus was really just he was an important person and he was a leader, but he was just a man. and he was going to prove it. And everything I remember hearing him say back then was wrong or out of context. And this is a supposed scholar. And I mean, my God, we're not going to get into it in this video. I'm not going to go search it out because I can't even remember where it was. This debate, as usual for mainstream media, just goes in so many bizarre directions because everybody involved in this industry is a moron. And, you know, Dennis Prager effectively makes the point that the left is destroying America. I don't know that I actually agree with that point anymore. I'm not sure that that the left is attempting to actively destroy America as Western civilization. I think they just don't care. I think they just don't care about Western civilization's mission. And to be perfectly frank, you could say that for the conservatives as well. That's why I'm making this channel in the first place. I don't think anybody remembers what the hell we're doing here anymore. And I think everybody's very lost, including myself to a certain extent. I'm fairly educated on these matters, and I got confused. I can't imagine what everybody else is dealing with. Anyway, just to talk about a little bit why we're not going to be dealing with anything that Reza says. At one point, Dennis Prager brings up the fact that, he effectively just brings up the LGBT agenda in America, and Reza's response to that includes a question to Dennis Prager about how many genders are in the Bible. Now, there are two genders in the Bible. There is man and there is woman. That's really it. And Reza, like the idiot that he is, claims that there are 6. And why does he think this? Because the Talmud says that there are 6, which is not the Bible. The Talmud are commentaries. It is a collection of commentaries from generations, and some of it isn't even good commentary. There are plenty of scholars who will tell you that the Talmud is full of good stuff, and it is filled with stuff that should be tossed out, but for the sake of I don't know, some sense of stability or something like that, they can't just start cutting things out, and they don't really want to do that. So, and I understand that, by the way. I don't have a huge problem with that, but you cannot, it's the simple fact is that there were commenters on the Bible and on spirituality and Jewish spirituality that some of them just were saying some crazy stuff, man. And a lot of Jewish people kind of just, they look at that and they go, "Oh, it's one of those guys. This is one of those," and then they just kind of toss it out. It's not. It's so bizarre, and it's one of those things where, like, clearly Reza, it's like he did his homework on some level, and then he just failed the test. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. All right. So I was wondering, anyway, to get back to the point of this video, this is going to be a real quick one, I think. I really was wondering what Dennis Prager thought about the Israel thing. I have to say this about Prager. I think that his commentaries on the Torah are incredible. They are well done. They're effectively just recordings of a class that he did on all 5 books of the Torah, and it is hour upon hour upon hour of him sort of making selections from the commentaries of the Bible, the Jewish commentaries on the Bible, and what Jewish scholars note and point out and what they've studied. And that's a lot. It's one of those things that are very difficult to get your hands on if you don't know what you're doing, right? Like, it would be very difficult for somebody who did not study Hebrew and study Torah when he was young to sort of dive into. And so if you want sort of a boot camp of really, some of the most important books in Western civilization, if not the most, certainly up there as some of the top books, Dennis Prager's commentaries on those are phenomenal. They are expensive, and that is a problem. I would recommend you start with Genesis and Exodus. Definitely, just get your hands on those two. I think the other ones are interesting, and they fill in a lot of interesting little gaps and are good, even though some of them are boring. I mean, let's face, Deuteronomy and Numbers can be pretty rough, right? But just unbelievably good. And if he just stuck to that stuff, I think I would still have quite a bit of respect for him. But his defense of Israel here, just I couldn't let it go. I had to make a video on this. I hate this so much.
Has a problem with the death of people who are not in the way of combat, and even in the way of combat. But it could end tomorrow, literally tomorrow. Hamas resigns, like Hitler and his henchmen resigned, there will be peace. And if they announce we accept the Jewish state, there will be peace. There is no example in the modern world of a free country wanting war and a police state wanting peace.
Okay, Reza, you've been...
Okay. All right, that's it. That's all I wanted to do. Look, guys, the simple question for Dennis Prager here, and Reza actually eventually gets around to it. He kind of figures it out in real time. But the simple question for Dennis is, who surrenders and how? What exactly is it? What government do you go to, do you negotiate with for an end to this war? And the answer is there is none. There is no functional government in Gaza currently. None. So you're not at war with a government. That's out the window. That whole conversation that we were having about Iraq and Afghanistan, for example, that we were at war with the Taliban, but not the people of Afghanistan and Iraq. You don't have that. You don't have that kind of excuse here. You just don't. There is no functional government. So who are you at war with but the people in Gaza? And frankly, of all the stuff that's being done in Israel right now, what you have to consider is how much of the combat that is happening and how much of the airstrikes that are going on are based on the idea that there is supposedly a Hamas leader somewhere in that group. And that therefore, Dresden style gives you this ability to destroy everybody, all of these innocent lives, thousands upon thousands of people, on the basis that you might get a Hamas leader. And who are the Hamas leaders, by the way? Do we know? Because if Israel really cared about how we thought about what was going on, it would start releasing this stuff, right? Here's this guy, here's what he did, we got him, this is why we had to get him. Yes, there were casualties of war. These cowards are hiding in civilian circles, and we cannot let October 7th happen again. They're not bothering with that. They don't care. They don't care at all. They're just generally sort of saying, Hamas, they're everywhere. Well, if they're everywhere in Gaza, what is left but to destroy all of Gaza? And that's what they're saying. That's what they're telling us. That's what they're telling us they're doing. They're doing it with our money. They're doing it with our votes. We are doing this. In a sense, we are doing this. That is the problem. That is the problem with this entire thing. By the way, here's a question for everybody. If Israel knows where all of these members of Hamas are hiding all the time, such that they can make pinpointed aerial strikes during wartime, during combat, during the fog of war, they still somehow have the ability to know exactly where all these Hamas leaders are. Why didn't they know about October 7th? So you're going to tell me that you know that a Hamas leader is hiding in a refugee camp or a hospital, so you have to bomb it to get them, but you didn't know October 7th was coming? How are you finding out one but not the other? And either way you explain it, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter. If you look, there's really two ways to explain it, isn't there? Either you don't know where all these Hamas leaders are and you are just attacking people. You are choosing targets based on something else, and you're making it up as you go along based on whatever policies you have internally. And that's why you didn't know what was going on October 7th, because you actually don't know where all these people are and you're just making it up. Or you absolutely knew what's going on, what was going on, what will go on, because on some level, you are so clued in with Hamas that on some level you may be Hamas on some level, right? At what point do you become the monster that you're supposedly spying on? I believe the last thing I heard about this was that Qatar was supplying Hamas and Hezbollah with money, funds, and Netanyahu explained to them that he, of course, wanted them to keep doing that. Makes for a pretty good excuse to go in and start killing everybody. If you let them attack you on October 7th and you create a situation where you have this 9/11 scenario, you militarize your people. Because let's face it, I have a feeling that a lot of Israelis were starting to probably say, hey, I don't really get this anymore. I don't really know what's going on and we're fighting for no reason. Why don't we just let them have those things? Why don't we just let them have those states? And if that's what happened internally, Israel cannot have our support anymore. It just can't. It shouldn't have it anyway. At this point, it's very clear. Again, to come back to Dennis Prager's point, the question here is, what exactly is it that Hamas should do? Because what would that look like if you think about it? Like, what would a Hamas surrender look like at this point? Let's say that you are a Hamas leader and you want to surrender because you say, listen, I don't know what's going on here. I can't keep letting this happen to my people. I will surrender myself, and all of Hamas leadership will surrender itself, and we will be publicly executed if need be. But you have got to stop killing our people. You have got to stop. Please stop this. We're sorry. We awoke a sleeping giant. We had no idea that this is what was going to happen. Oopsie poopsie. I will surrender, and this will stop. Right? On what basis would you believe that Israel would stop? On what basis would Israel's enemies have any reason to believe that if Hamas surrendered tomorrow, that the war would end? It doesn't look like it. They're not following the rules of engagement that has been going on, even just the sort of meta that's been going on in the Middle East, right? There's this bizarre sort of meta between the Jews and the Arabs where, the Arabs sort of have this moment of martyrdom and then the Jews sort of stamp it out, right? And then everybody kind of goes back to their corners and there's this sort of constant fighting that goes on that way. And that's not even what's happening here, because the Jews have, I mean, if you really want to look at it from the Israeli perspective, ultimately, it seems like the Israelis have finally decided that they have had enough, period. That they have had enough, end of story. They don't want to do this anymore, and they think, let's just go all out. Let's end this the way that it would surely end things forever. And ultimately, that's the destruction of all of Gaza. Total wipeout, glass the entire thing, and leave it as a shining example because that's the thing. I mean, you could argue that the Israelis are not committing genocide in the sense that they are not doing the same thing to the West Bank. Technically, right? They're not. It's not like they're doing both, where they're attacking Gaza and then took the impetus to go and attack and destroy the West Bank on the other side of the country. That's not what's happened. But it could. It is true that ultimately, who knows what's next? What would it take? Would it just take another October 7th from that side that they overlook? So it's a non-point, it's a silly point, it's a fake point, and it's kind of the crux of his entire argument for Israel being the good guys still, even today. And it also it doesn't deal with any of the issues. I wish Piers Morgan, I mean, I don't like Piers Morgan. I think he's an idiot and a fraud. But, I do wish that Piers Morgan had pushed Dennis Prager on this issue ultimately. How do they know that all these Hamas leaders are where they are, but they didn't know that October 7th was going to happen? Why did Netanyahu tell Qatar to continue to support Hamas? It seems like an excuse to have an enemy that you can use as a foil so that you can go in and commit genocide. What about these people who were killed, the aid workers who were murdered? Clearly marked cars. This is ubiquitous in the Middle East. This is ubiquitous in third world countries. This is ubiquitous in places where there are people starving. You see these white UN-style peacekeeping missions cars, and they travel in caravans, and you always know exactly what they are and what they're doing and where they're going. And you airstrike them on the basis that you thought maybe that a Hamas leader was in there? You're still the good guys? You're still the good guys? Nobody believes this stuff anymore. And this is so damaging to what's left of conservatism. Ultimately, I think this could very well be the thing that kills conservatism, honestly. I think the only way that conservatives pull out of this death spiral that they have with Israel, by the way, is I think there has to be a point where everybody finally gets tired of AIPAC having the control that they do, right? The Israel lobby, AIPAC, has this immense amount of power, and a lot of it comes down to the fact that it mobilizes its people. The Jewish diaspora here are very powerful, and they pick up the phone and they call, and they have money. They have money, and they will give it to Israel supporters. If you have a lot of Jewish people in, whatever group that you represent, if you are pro-Israel, you get that money. That's how it works. That's how it works. And I think the saving grace here, in terms of us finally pulling out of our relationship with Israel, may very well be the Democrats, believe it or not, because it's the Democrats who are saying this has to stop. They are the ones who get out and actually start making movements. They've always been pro-Palestinian, and you got to think of it from the perspective of a Democratic congressman or congresswoman, right? If you are somebody who is supposedly a Democrat and you believe in fighting for the little guy, and that's kind of the marketing technique that they've always used, you cannot simultaneously be pro-Palestinian and take Israeli money and be pro-Israel. There's no, you've got to at a certain point make a stand. And I have a feeling that a lot of Democrats, and that it is actually what we're seeing now that I think about it. I know Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are finally calling for a lot of people to finally start pulling away from Israel. This may be their Titanic. This may be the thing that finally makes them pull out. Because if the Democrats start doing it, the Republicans may. The Republicans might. And look, let's be honest. A lot of Republicans are finally starting to realize, my God, this is not a winning thing. A lot of Republicans are very, very concerned about this. So it's sad. It's just kind of sad to watch the slow death of conservative talk radio and a lot of the people who are ultimately otherwise great moral voices for the country. Dennis Prager always was. I mean, yeah, he was very pro-Israel, and at the time, especially pre-internet and pre-internet non-mainstream news sources, it was kind of hard to figure out what was really going on in Israel, and so they had a monopoly on what kind of filtered through to the people, and it's just kind of sad to watch. It would have been nice. It would have been nice to know that Dennis Prager actually had standards that you could rely on, and it's so sad because again his biblical commentaries are so good, and this just puts a cloud over all of that, and it just sucks.